Welcome to the Trent England Show. Thanks so much for watching. I mentioned at the end of the show yesterday the list of legislative accomplishments. I just wanted to pop that up on the screen for you real quick here from ocpathink.org. Just as a reminder, we talk about plenty of negative things here on the show, things that need to change. But, you know, we had the legislature pass Medicaid audits, Medicaid work requirements. They're going to let the people of Oklahoma vote on breaking down education funding silos. We got better protections for unionized teachers who want to opt out, and on and on and on. It's a good list. I hope you'll bounce over to ocpathink.org after the show is over and check that out. Notice how not right now, after the show is over. Because we want you to stay with us. I want to be sure you saw this story. You may have seen it, but about the wind industry. We've mentioned it on the show, and I just wanted to follow up with this. You know, you had some legislators who thought they were being tracked. Representative McBride actually found a tracking device on his pickup truck. He reported this to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. They opened an investigation into whether this was some kind of a harassment scheme or extortion scheme or something like that. And he said from the get-go, Representative McBride said from the get-go, he thought it was the wind industry because he knew those guys, big businesses, big national and multinational businesses, and he has been an adversary of theirs in the legislature. And they said, no, we would never do that. And the Oklahoman, to their credit, the Oklahoman here, Nolan Clay had this story, and I think he had the one before, showing that that this wind coalition, they actually shared an office or shared offices in the same building as this Texas liberal political consultant whose nickname is Dr. Dirt. And they said, no, just a coincidence. Well, now it turns out that the coincidence goes even further because on the days, some of the key days when this tracking device was being placed and being deactivated, turns out they had long conversations with Dr. Dirt, this guy who we don't know who he is. So things not looking very good for the wind folks out there, looking like they're going to be fully uncovered for stalking state legislators. And look, I mean, they can say, everybody can say, the private investigators can say, we wouldn't use this to blackmail anybody, but everybody knows that's basically what the point of all this is to get information that allows you to control legislators, especially when this was going on, not right now. It'd be one thing if it's going on during campaign season. Finding out information about your opponent and exposing them is not illegal, and actually, in many ways, as long as it's done honestly, it's beneficial. But finding out information about a sitting legislator right before legislative session puts a different pall on it, doesn't it? So, okay, there is that. Another news blurb, you probably haven't seen this one. This is a pet peeve of mine, and it's one of the few areas where I disagree with some of my open government transparency advocate buddies, and we are all buddies because, look, the idea of government by the people requires transparency, but that doesn't always mean cameras everywhere in government. It doesn't always mean that. And this story popped up. I saw this over at the McCarville Report. Attorney General Mike Hunter says he wants cameras in the courtroom when he takes on drug companies, the companies that bring you the medicines that allow you to live and me to live and to live without pain and to cure things like cancer and stuff like that. I know these guys, I mean, look, I'm not, I don't like or dislike any particular company, but I do think that when certain companies are always getting a bad rap, it's, sort of important to remind ourselves why they're so big, why they have so much money. They actually do things that are very useful to us. But Attorney General Hunter wants, he is trying to sue some of these companies that are involved in manufacturing opiates, right? Opioid drugs. These are drugs that have lots of legitimate uses and have lots of illegitimate uses, and he wants to sue them, and he wants cameras in the courtroom. And look, I mean, here, let's play the video clip. This is what I think about all that.
You see, this is my life. It always will be. There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark. All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
You might not know it about me, especially if you're not listening to the podcast, but you're actually watching me. But I don't like cameras. I actually kind of like the whole radio thing. I'm not a big fan of the cameras. Look, cameras change people's behavior. And you're probably, if you really think about it, you think, well, that's a good thing because, Trent, if you always stood there and talked to people like this, that would be really obnoxious face to face. I mean, cameras create a different environment. And look, putting cameras in a courtroom is a bad idea because it changes what's going on. It's supposed to be, this is not creating generally applicable laws like we do in the legislative process, right? And for that matter, we don't put cameras in every executive agency head's office all the time. And look, people have to be able to deliberate. We get transcripts from courtrooms, we get audio recordings, we have sketch artists who go in there. I'm always impressed with those people. The idea that we need cameras in there and the idea that one of the parties in a case wants cameras in there actually just proves my point. All it does is increase grandstanding among politician lawyers. That is the last thing we need, invading our, one part of government where we sort of don't have all of that politics already. That's my 2 cents on it. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that. But there you go. State revenues are up. I wanted to make sure I called this out for you. This is a really important story, and this is going to, if the trends continue, oil prices today are up over $71 a barrel, by the way. If these trends continue in Oklahoma's economy and in Oklahoma's collection of tax and fee revenues, this is going to be a big influence on elections in November. And I'm not sure quite how all that's going to work out. I'll be honest with you. The interesting thing about all of this is that the state is going to get so much growth revenue. The state is, at least so far, the state has been bringing in more revenue than was predicted for this current budget. The state, that means, is in a surplus, basically, right? If that continues into the next budget year that starts on July 1st, that may actually prove that some of the tax increases that were passed were unnecessary, right? Think about that. Some of the revenue increases that the legislature passed may turn out to be sort of superfluous if the economy is chugging along at such a pace that it's generating surplus revenues. And what we saw in April, for the month of April, was 15% growth in state revenue. And again, faster than even was predicted. It was predicted to go up versus last year, and it's gone up even faster than that. I see stories like this, and I'm not entirely happy about it. I have to admit, I'm not entirely happy about it, because what does this mean? Look, we can stand back and we can cheer, and there are political reasons why it might be good or it might be bad for government to be bringing in more revenue, but what does it actually mean? It means government is going to get bigger, doesn't it? Isn't that what it means when government brings in more revenue, right? Government is going to have more money. And what is one of Trent's basic rules of politics? They always spend all the money. They're going to spend all the money. They always spend all the money. Here's my question. Why does government always have to get bigger? And to flip that around, to look backward at our last few years in Oklahoma, why is it a crisis when government stops growing? Because that is basically all that has happened over the course of the last few years in Oklahoma. Oil prices tanked, natural gas prices were already low, and government basically froze. Government basically stopped growing. If you look at total state spending, it basically just stayed flat. It didn't go way down. The appropriated budget went down some, not a lot, but total government spending in Oklahoma basically just sort of leveled off for a while. And if you look back before that, you see that total state spending in Oklahoma actually had surged under Governor Brad Henry. Brad Henry had goosed the whole thing as much as he possibly could, and the economy was doing so well, and oil prices and natural gas prices were so high that he was able to cut income taxes and still dramatically grow state revenues and state spending and the size of state government. Why is it that it's a crisis when government just stops growing for a couple of years? Look, I want to throw this out there. We're going to do some shows that actually take that question on in more detail over the course of this summer, but I just wanted to raise the question, isn't that crazy? Don't we think that at least some parts of government should get more efficient over time? Isn't there anything we can do better? And better means cheaper, right? Better might mean that we're paying more and getting a lot more. Better might mean that we're getting the same thing and paying less. Better might mean that we're, getting something better and paying less, right? That's what better means. Better does not mean we're getting the same thing and paying more for it. Better doesn't mean we're getting a little bit better quality. The bureaucrats now have computers and we can email them. you know, but we get nothing fundamentally different, and it costs twice as much. That's not better, that's worse. Why does government always get worse? That's the question. If government's always getting more expensive, if government is always costing us more, and we're not fundamentally getting anything more, anything better from government, then government is always getting worse. Why do our politicians suck that bad? No, it's actually not just about the politicians, right? It's actually about the structure of government. We're going to dig into that over some shows over the summer because, hey, look, we don't have to talk about the legislature. They're out of town. I want to talk about some of the things that actually matter more than the day-to-day politics, some of the principles, and that's what we're going to get to. But we're going to close the show today with this story that was, producer Clint, was it you who kicked this over to me? Somebody kicked this over to me earlier today, the cheerleader story. Oh, no, okay. Maybe it was somebody else in the office kicked me this story about cheerleaders in New Jersey, the New Jersey cheerleading squad that has gone, they've gone politically correct, and they will not, one parent complained about a child getting cut after tryouts for the cheerleading squad, so they changed the whole thing, no more tryouts. If you want to be a cheerleader at this New Jersey high school, you can be a cheerleader. That means, yes, even these two can make the cheerleading squad in New Jersey now. There we go. Okay, thank you for watching the Trent England Show. Do you enjoy that? I had fun. We had two Hollywood, picture and a clip there today. That is straining my knowledge of popular culture. And if you're a younger viewer, you're saying to both of those things, what was that? What was that? Ask your dad or your grandpa. I'm Trent England. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you tomorrow.